So I'm not going to do a super long rant here. I just wanted to give you guys some information on some of the ratings data that we're getting from the Joshua-Klitschko heavyweight fight. So for Showtime here in the United States, Showtime averaged 660,000 viewers, peaked at about 687,000. To put that into perspective, AJ's previous bouts on the network never topped 390,000, I think, as far as the average. And this was the largest live afternoon broadcast ever for Showtime Boxing. Now, on the replay on HBO, which was about 5 hours after the event happened live, it did about 740K average, 890,000 peak. Now, you look at Vladimir, he had 2 fights in 2015 on HBO. He averaged over 1.6 million against Bryant Jennings when he fought him in New York that spring. And that was one of the best ratings, I think, in 2015 for HBO. And when he fought Fury later that year, it averaged over 1 million live. So this was a little bit down for HBO. But when you consider that it was a replay, I think all things considered, when you put those 2 ratings together, pretty damn impressive. Now, here's the really, really big, crazy rating stuff, okay? Over in the UK, the pay-per-view for Sky Box Office did well north of 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. All of AJ fights before that, his pay-per-view fights before that, did about 300,000 buys or less, I feel. So this was a massive exponential growth for this event, several times over for AJ and his brand. And it just goes to show you what name recognition of your opponent can do, because Klitschko's huge in Europe. This will easily smash the record over there for Sky Box Office pay-per-view in the UK, which was previously set with the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, which coincidentally happened 2 years ago today as I'm recording this. That debacle 2 years ago actually did do the record over there in the UK for pay-per-view. This fight smashed it. But unlike that fight, you had one of the guys was British, the eventual victor of the fight was British, but also it wasn't 2 guys cashing out, doing a money grab. This was an heir apparent taking the throne from the former great fighter. You know, this was a passing of the torch, and now there's something to build on after this. So you have to expect that the record that was just smashed over there in the UK with pay-per-view is probably going to get smashed again somewhere down the line, depending on what AJ does. Whether it's a rematch with Klitschko, which would probably smash the rating again, the record again, or a fight with Tyson Fury, or even one of the other titleists, whether it's Joseph Parker or Deontay Wilder, whatever it is, that record is going to get beat at some point, and he's probably going to do north of 2 million at some point very, very soon. That's not even the biggest rating. Check this out. Over in Germany, they're one of their network television channels, RTL. It's basically, for you guys in America, it'd be like the equivalent of CBS or NBC, something like that. Klitschko has an exclusive deal with them. His fights are on free TV over in Germany. They did over 10.4 million viewers. Well over 40% of the market share. About 45, I think 46% of the market share, just doing the math in my head. That's huge. That's huge. That's a bigger market share than the Super Bowl here in the United States, and that's basically a national holiday here. So when you think almost half of a country tuned in to watch that fight, and just to put this into perspective, Klitschko always does huge numbers in Germany. He did 8.9 million for the Tyson Fury fight. His highest ever rated fight, though, in Germany is when he fought David Haye in 2011. That had over 16 million viewers. So it wasn't his highest rated fight over there, which is interesting. So his brand is, you know, fallen a little bit, but still a massive, massive rating. Even in Poland, one of their network channels, Polsat, did an average of over 920,000, a peak of over 1 million, right? All the numbers continue to come in. We've talked about the 90,000 that attended this fight live. It aired in over 140 countries. I'm just giving you highlights from some of the countries, right? So you start to put this thing together. Tens of millions of people watched this fight, whether it was live in person at the venue, live on television in their home country, streaming it somewhere, or a replay, right? Tens of millions. And I would assume that not all of those folks were diehard boxing fans before they tuned into that fight, but a lot of them became boxing fans after that fight. If I had to put a number on it, an over-under, I would assume that well over half, the majority of them, will at least be, maybe not boxing fans, but Anthony Joshua fans going forward and tune into his fights in the future and be respectful and knowledgeable of Vladimir Klitschko should he return. And I do believe that his exclusive deal with RTL still has a couple more fights on it. So I think that it's clear Klitschko will probably fight at least once more, even if it's a farewell fight in Germany or maybe even Ukraine, like a homecoming or something like that, even if it's not a rematch with Joshua. But the numbers and the finances of that possible rematch might lure him to do it. I don't know. He certainly isn't fighting for the money, though, because he's left tens of millions of dollars on the table to fight on free TV in Germany and in other countries. But, you know, I mentioned Mayweather Pacquiao, right? 2 years ago today. And that fight, the box office of it is kind of drawing comparisons to this fight. This fight didn't generate as much money because it didn't go to pay-per-view here in the States or in all these different countries. It was only pay-per-view in the UK, as far as I know, and their pay-per-views are much cheaper over there. But as far as brand building for the sport, as far as the impact it's going to leave, much, much bigger and more important. Now, was this the greatest heavyweight fight ever? No. I think maybe we're getting a little too carried away, some people. Guys, this wasn't Louis Schmeling 2. This wasn't Ali Frazier, right? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I still do think it was the greatest super heavyweight title fight we've ever seen. We've seen better two-way action in smaller types of fights, but super heavyweight title fight, this has got to be the best one between fighters of this magnitude, right? So all that, and these two guys are going to make, well, the purse split, and just not an approximate number, I'm doing the exchange rate in my head right now, it's about $15 million each, American. Breaks down to about that much. Now that's the purse split between these two fighters. They didn't need 100 million, 200 million to do this. 15 million each. Now, of course, that doesn't include sponsorships, and Anthony Joshua already has a bunch. Vladimir Klitschko's had a bunch for years. Like I said, he's been a star, a name over there in Europe, several countries, but especially Germany, for years. Both these guys have tons of sponsorship money. And of course, Klitschko has foreign TV money that's going to come into play here, and pay-per-view upside. And we already know Eddie Hearn's confirmed it's going to do well north of what Mayweather Pacquiao did over there and break the record. So these guys are going to get a lot more. But let's say they end up with $25, $30 million each. And I don't know, maybe I'm exaggerating, but they're going to at least get 20 million each, okay? They didn't need 100, 200 million to put on a fight of this magnitude and build the sport and create fans and create an event that people are going to be talking about for a long time. They didn't need that. You can live pretty damn well off $20 million, $25 million. Your great-grandchildren are set with that kind of money. That's life-changing money. So this should serve as a lesson, hopefully, to other fighters coming up who want to try to mimic money, TBE, guys like that, who are selling out, and let's be clear here, Floyd ain't the only one, who are selling out. Canelo, is he following down that road? Selling out for the highest bidder and trying to get the most money, gouging the most money out of fans that you possibly can, instead of taking maybe a little bit, maybe a lot less money, still getting paid very damn well, among the highest paid athletes in the world, especially for one night's work, and creating fans. Here's my hope for AJ, that he stays Anthony AJ Joshua. It doesn't turn into Anthony Money Joshua. Because now Eddie Hearn and his people might be looking at the numbers coming in and thinking, holy shit, we can do this, this, this. And I'm just hoping they do the right thing here and they stay on the path that they've set. Obviously, AJ's a pay-per-view fighter now, right? He's going to fight twice a year, pay-per-view, fine. But don't gouge people. Don't take this thing to smaller venues where you could charge a lot more per ticket. Don't increase the price of the pay-per-view. Don't put them in there with cans, with shit undercards, and gouge the hell out of the fans. Keep doing what you're doing if you're Matchroom Boxing right now. And all the other promoters need to look at what's going on over there, particularly not just the UK scene, but particularly with Eddie Hearn, what they've done with the consistency and the brand building with Anthony Joshua. They can do that in other parts of the world, including here in America. We have a fight coming up. I'm about to head to Vegas to go cover between Canelo Alvarez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., where they're gouging the hell out of the fans and charging for a lot of money for this pay-per-view. They're marketing the hell out of this fight. They're promoting the hell out of it, and they're marketing to a specific fan base. So it'll be interesting to see what the pay-per-view numbers for Canelo Chavez end up being. I think they'll do pretty well. I don't think numbers-wise it's going to do what Joshua-Klitschko did, but I think it's going to make a lot more money because fans are being gouged. But it'll be interesting to see if it underperforms. And if it does, I think the message is clear. Either way, even if it does big business, the promoters need to look at what Joshua-Klitschko did, and the fighters need to look at what those two just did, the impact they had, and how that helps the sport long-term. So, promised you I wasn't going to rant too long, and there I go, ranting on for 11 minutes. But just wanted to give you guys some of the numbers coming in and some of my perspective. You know I'm always going to keep it real no matter who it pisses off. Yeah, I'm about to go cover a fight for Golden Boy Promotions, and they know I've been critical of this card coming up. I still think it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's going to be interesting to see when those numbers come back to compare them to what Joshua and Klitschko just did. I think what they did over there in London last weekend is the way it's supposed to be done, and I hope we can see more of that in the future. I hope that Eddie Hearn, Team AJ, don't start looking at the Floyds, the Mannys, the Canelos, and start trying to do more of that. We need to see less of that and more of what's been going on over there in London. I think that's the right way it's supposed to be done.